We as Jews, when we daven the Shemona Esrei, we know that we need to face which direction. If we're outside of, if we're in Chutz La'aretz, which direction do we face? If we're in Eretz Yisrael, which direction do we face? That's right. It's always towards the Beis Hamikdash. And we take 3 steps forward, and we bow, and we say a prayer that there are people all over this world that want to know what is that connection a Jew has when they take that vow and they're in the Holy of Holies. I come from a world of people that have their own concept of what it means to have an intimate relationship with their Creator. Not only do you come before your Creator physically, and you know physically that you need to be towards Kodesh HaKadoshim, but emotionally and mentally, it is absolutely imperative that you understand when you daven the Shemona Esrei, it's with Kavana, that you know who you are standing before, that you know why you are standing there, and you know how you got there. I open this way for a very specific reason. I come from the fundamentalist Christian world. If any of you know Sarah Palin, who's out in the political arena right now, that's the world I came from. I am 61 years old today, so she's much younger than I am. But when I made the decision to see what Judaism was about, that was the world I was in. Those of you who know about the South or the South of America, New Orleans or Mississippi or any of those places, you know that it's the Bible Belt area of America. Well, I came from the West Coast, Washington State, California, and we felt we were very hip in our Christian world. I was involved politically. Any of you know the moral, this is 20 years ago, so you girls, I don't know unless you've done any history or had parents that came from, or knew people that came from that world, would know that we fought for moral principles. We fought for, which is just so not politically correct today, family values. So I lobbied in D.C., and I lobbied in different states, and I taught people how to lobby, and I really was into, as from a Christian point of view, what it meant to speak out and have your viewpoint made heard by your representative in Washington, D.C. There came a point when I went, something's not right. Something's not right. I just could feel within me something not correct. So I started asking questions. Now, this is the hardest thing for Jews to understand. In the Christian world, you don't ask questions. You don't ask questions. When you ask questions, they really are not happy campers. So when they saw me walk into a Bible study, which is what they call a shir, I was there asking the questions. Well, what does this mean? What does that mean? In the Christian world, you also don't get answers. You believe because it's the way it's taught. You believe because you have faith. In what? We're not quite 100% sure, but you have faith. If you're intellectually inquisitive, you're not encouraged to get a PhD, to get a master's. If you get a BA, well, okay, we'll deal with that, but it was a very restraining, constraining type of situation. So for me, my background is that I am what's called, in my world, an army brat. What does that mean? That means that my father was in the military, and I was a child of my father, and because he was an officer in the military, we're called brats, because we tend to get privileged lifestyles. So we traveled all over the world. I lived in several different countries. And my father was also in what's called Army Intelligence, or CIA, if you know what the CIA is, Central Intelligence Agency. It's the vehicle that in America they use to spy all over the world. So in my background, I was raised in a home where you had to be very careful what you said. You had to be careful how you said things. When you look around a room, you try and remember faces. Even as a child, when you walk down the hall, if you're in a school, if you're walking outside, if you're in a mall, you try and remember who you're seeing. You'd be surprised how when we're walking in different places, we are so connected to ourselves that we're not even aware of what's going on around us. So Hashem and his humor, I think, prepared me for a very interesting life as I progressed in seeking out what it is, truth. What was truth? So living on the West Coast, I raised my family in a Christian home, and then made the decision I'm going to start learning about the Jewish roots of Christianity. This was 20 years ago. This was something that was a really big thing. So as I learned the Jewish roots of Christianity, I found out, we got some problems here. What does this mean? I've been 20 years in the Christian world, and now I'm finding out they don't know too much about Jesus. They don't know too much about his background. Well, when we come to find out who all these apostles are, and it just went on and on and on, where there were no answers. To find out what happened in the Holocaust and how the Christians were involved. Either, of course, there were the righteous Gentiles, but there were also many, many Christians who turned their back on the Jewish people. That was heartbreaking for me, to understand that all the nations of the world, but very few, and collectively rejected us. Not just rejected us, but knew that when they turned us away, and America was a very big culprit in this, that they sent us to our death. How can this be? Responsibility of actions and making choices, no matter what your lifestyle is or what you come out of, is vital, especially in a Jewish life. So as I progressed in my learning, I thought, okay, so I'm going to have to walk away from this world. 20 years investment in a world that I had to walk away from. People already were realizing, because I was a teacher, I taught about the Bible. I taught in situations like this in classrooms. And so they knew I was very involved in my church and my community. So they all knew, something's really happening with this person. She's moving backward. She's moving out. She's moving away from us. And as I started getting involved in Israel, you have to understand, I come from a background where I've traveled all my life. So really, Israel it wasn't that I had this burning desire to go to the Middle East. I mean, I knew something about it. I'd lived in Japan as a child growing up, so I knew something about East and knew that I was very American. Very American. I mean, mom, apple pie, God, very, very American. So I had to make a decision. Well, what is this place, Israel? What's going on here? So as I got more and more involved learning about what I was investigating, I thought, okay, I'm going to take a trip to Israel. I don't know, for those of you that live in Hutzlaritz, that you come here to Israel, but I've heard across the board people say you get off the plane, you touch the ground, and you just start crying. Some of us have had that experience. We see in the paper sometimes people are kissing the ground. I didn't kiss the ground. But when I got off the plane and I started walking around and I went on my tour, because I was still in the Christian world. I was with Christians on this tour. But I was moving away and I went, I could feel it. Oh, dear God, please help me, because it's a big one here. This is huge. So I spent 10 days of my great trip here in Israel crying, just crying. And I have weird experiences. I even think about it now that I was on Harabayats and I was, we were Goyim. So here I am. I was a Goy and I walked in and I was right on the top and there was it was just an amazing thing that I think about now as a Jew, to think that I actually was there and I actually saw the stone that they said was the center. And, of course there were Arabs everywhere. And, but I didn't notice that at the time. So 3 more trips to Israel, getting more and more involved. And I passed through many different types of Christianity. For you guys, it isn't so applicable. You probably don't know the world. But it's, in Judaism, we have many different types of Judaism, don't we? In the Orthodox Jewish world, we have Hasidim, we have Miznagim, we have, all different kinds of perspective. Well, the Christian world is very similar. And those moving out of the Christian world, it's also very similar. There's different ways to move out. So I went back home on my last trip and I thought, okay, 1 more trip and I'm going to decide whether I'm going to convert to Judaism and I'm going to move to Israel. Okay, if I was homegrown, born and raised in California, it would be very traumatic. For me, you remember, I come from many places in the world I've traveled. So, okay. But I'm leaving my family, I'm leaving my friends. I am making a responsible decision, I believe, because there is no choice. I remember Rebbetzin Heller was talking one time to me about, true gerim. You have to understand there's all kinds, like in anything in life. But true gerim, you're driven. You're driven to move forward. If you have something that you love tremendously and you just are compelled to find out the answer, or you're compelled to find out how you fit into that framework of what you're seeking out, that was what happened to me. So I said to her, I didn't feel like I had a choice. I was seeking truth. There was truth. What was I going to do? I was going to go back and teach people a lie that I knew really was a lie. And you have to remember, I come from a CIA background. My father was a spy. So coming from that background, I'm sitting here thinking, I have been brainwashed. I can't believe this. Me, I've been brainwashed. And my father's no longer living. So I really would have loved to have been able to go to him and say, I can't believe it. All those things you told me to watch out for about information that I took in and things that I read and things that I heard over the radio or television, any media of anything, it's brainwashing. It's a tool they use to move masses from one place to another place. How am I going to now? I'm putting on glasses of truth and I'm sitting here looking, going, this is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm all by myself. I was divorced at the time. My children were on their own, married and having their own families. And I'm sitting there going, okay, this is what I'm going to need to do. So I came to Israel on a pilot trip, is what they call it in America in those days. We didn't have Nefesh B'Nefesh. And I stayed. I never went back. I gave all my stuff away to my sister, lucky lady, and car and all my belongings in LA. And I stayed because I was afraid to go back. The Gashmias scares me. I have to tell you, even today, the Gashmias scares me in America, especially, because you're just sucked in and you become connected. And once that credit card starts going, there you go, because it's not real money. Us ladies know this. You go into Nordstrom's, you go into any store, you just go, charge it, charge it, charge it. You don't think of how much money we're talking about here. And I was so afraid I would get into debt because I was debt-free and I had all the opportunity to be able to come here and live. So I did. And in that process of searching, I realized that I had found the truth. I needed to get, at this point, I had gotten a conservative conversion in the University of Judaism, which is in Los Angeles. And I don't know if anybody here from California, I don't want to offend too many people, but okay. The University of Judaism, a conservative outlet, I don't know what else to call it, I knew more about God than the rabbi that was teaching me the class. I was a fundamentalist Christian sitting with all these people in a class for conversion, and I knew more about God. I was so angry. How can this man stand there and doubt God? Because you see, when you come from a certain type of belief system, I already knew the omnipotence of God. I knew that he was everywhere. I knew that he was all-knowing. I knew that he loved people. I believed he loved me. I believed that he cared about every single thing in my life. And that's the emunah that people that come from that world bring into the Jewish world from the Christian world. We have tremendous emunah. And we are very, very connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So making that decision to become a Jew and have a rabbi stand there and tell me, they're stories. You know, the stories that you read in the Bible, they're stories. But if you want to be Jewish, we'd love to have you. So I got a conservative conversion there, and then when I got here, I met a guy. Isn't it always that way, right? We're in Israel. You know, in my day, it was always about Paris and the love stories that, you know, Paris is so amour. You know, but you come to Israel and you see we're from everywhere. We're from everywhere, all walks of life, all kinds of faces. And who is a Jew? What is a Jew? I mean, it's unbelievable, the choices of how many people are here. So anyway, I was in an Ulpan here in Harnof and met a young Irish gal, red hair. Of course, you couldn't see it. It was just, you know, around the side because she had her head covering on. And she'd gone to Neve, and she said, "My dad is here. I'd really like you to meet him." No, I don't want to meet anybody. I still only had a conservative conversion, so I knew something was not right. Being halakhically correct was very important to me. So anyway, in the whole process, I had an opportunity to meet with Rav Leff here at Neve, and he was at Neve at those days. Yeah, he's not at Neve. Right, it's Sevlev. And anyway, I went for a Beis Din, got my halakhic conversion, my Orthodox conversion, and then got married and had a life and, you know, went through all kinds of things here in Israel. I've been here for 18 years. My Hebrew is still... But I say, you know, I'm older. I was older when I came. It was too hard to learn. But there was a point that, you know, it's funny how you go back. You girls are young. You can map out your spiritual walk at this point. You can make choices and decisions that will just invigorate and revive you. I think back on the time when I was just making my decision to come and convert to Judaism and live in Israel, that the biggest package or present that could have come to me at that time came. And that was the choice we had a senator from Washington State, which I was from, who made it into the Senate, and they needed somebody to help, they call them legislative assistants, to work on the Hill in D.C., and I was asked to do that. And I went, but I want to go to Israel. Should I go to U.S. Senate, Israel Senate? And I thought, what am I? There's no choice here. Spiritually, to be alive and to know and have an intimate relationship with the Creator of the universe, there's no choice. There's no choice. So I walked away from that, and I came to Israel to become nobody. I was a nobody from a world where I was really somebody. So the sacrifice at that point, not only the family, okay, people make sacrifices. Look at Avraham Avinu. Look at the sacrifice. You're looking for that intimate relationship with the Creator of the universe. To me, Hashem, it was so mandatory to be able to move forward. Now in my life, just one second. Now in my life, I'm involved with helping other people on the conversion process. Nowadays, it isn't so simple to convert. We are watching the doors close faster and faster, tighter and tighter. Why is that? The Mashiach's coming. Ladies, the Mashiach is coming. You don't convert after the Mashiach's here. And we're watching it. Those of us that are working with these kind of people, we're watching how difficult it is to convert here in Israel. It's almost impossible. We've had rumors that the government is thinking about putting people in jail if they don't convert by the right rabbis. You have a government that is full of corruption. You have people that are willing to do anything to have a halakhic conversion, even if they have to go underground in Israel to avoid any type of prosecution. You have people that are giving up everything because they know something. And as I look at people that are FFBs, and I have friends that are FFBs. I live in Shari Hesed Rahavia, so it's a big FFB area. The desire to reignite the spark that is within you is vital. It's vital. The people that want to come into Eretz Yisrael to be a part, sincerely to be a part and consider it as true Gerim, are willing totally just to give up everything because they know what's around the bend. They know what's coming down the pike. I don't know how many terms I can use for that, but so I have the privilege and the opportunity to be able to work with them. I work with the Beis Din in B'nai Brak, Rav Karelis, if any of you know Rav Karelis, anyway. And what do? I'm a life coach. So, and I'm also somebody that, what, there's more? You're thinking about it. Wonderful. It's a great avenue. There is here. Great. It's a great avenue. Uh-huh. Who? Oh, that's great. Wonderful. But I specifically work with people in the conversion process because they're not Baal Tshuvas. It's a different world. You come from a different place and different issues. So I work specifically with them to help coach them through the difficulties of letting go, going forward. What does it mean? You know, it's something for us to understand that when these people come out of the mikveh, they now have a Yetzer Hara. They didn't have one before. When the world looks at us, they think, why can't we do these things? Why can't you Jews do this, 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 and this, and this? A Goy doesn't have a Yetzer Hara. We're the ones that are struggling with it. We're the ones that are pulled, and the closer you get to Kedusha, the stronger your Yetzer Hara is. So you have to prepare people for all of a sudden, this thing that wasn't a problem so much anymore, all of a sudden it's such an amazing problem. What am I going to do with this? So not only working with that kind of thing, but I really specify with them, it is so vitally important, and this is the one message I really want you ladies to understand. I tell them as strongly as I can, when you come into the Jewish people, we know this because we say Aleinu. We know that Hashem says, you are my people. So we know that when we walk like everybody else, we live in a house like everybody else, we eat like everybody else, we go out to dinner, we celebrate weddings, we have a life that could look like we're like everybody else. But you know what? We're not. We have responsibilities. And when someone comes into the Jewish people, they need to understand you have responsibilities. You have to make choices every single day of which way you're going to go. Am I going to go this way because it's about me, or am I going to go this way because for the klal it's important? And this is the mitzvah that brings me closer to Hashem. If you don't choose this way, what's going to happen? You're going to get to choose again, because Hashem isn't going to let go until you finally say, you know what, this way is important. Baruch Hashem, He doesn't let go of us. But people need to know when they're coming into the Jewish people, it's a responsibility. We daven. Why? We're not davening to a wall. We're taking 3 steps forward. We are bowing, and we know with kavana that we are standing before Kodesh HaKodeshim and the Creator, the Shekhinah. We are davening to our Creator. We're connected. Nobody else has that. And these people that want to become Jewish, they want that desperately. Desperately. And those of us that are born Jewish, it's a part of your life. But treasure it. Treasure it. Now, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything. We have about 5 minutes. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Ziva put her hand.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. Yeah, you did earlier, right.
Okay. Thank you. How did you have such a clarity?
A clarity. It took time. It took 3 years.
I'm saying before you became,
Yeah.
before you converted.
One step at a time. It's like I asked this question, didn't get an answer, so I kept asking the next question, didn't get an answer. It was a process.
Mm-hmm.
It took me about 3 years.
And when you were Jewish, yeah.
It's true. It's okay.
How do you put that?
Not Jewish yet.
You were in the political scene, or
Yeah.
you're in what's the CIA connection? I don't understand.
That's where I was raised. My father was in the CIA. When I was a child growing up, I was raised in the Army, and where he was, and all over the world in different countries. And when I say CIA, I'm saying that so people can understand that I come from a background of wariness. In other words, I'm very wary about information that I receive. So I like to know the root of things, unless it's halakha. Tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. I don't really need to know all the depth of it. But that's the connection. Just my background. Yeah.
So when, right after you convert, right away you feel that you have a Yetzer Hara?
Aha. So what happens is, no, he's clever. You kind of go along and you come out of the mikveh and you're thinking, oh, right, born again. I really have a born again experience. This is really true for the first time. And so you go along, you're all excited, it's a high. And then it took about a year. And then I'm kind of going, and I'm struggling. Why does this bother me? I've never had this struggle before. And it just kicks in at different times, appropriate times.
So how come, why would anybody else do anything bad if they don't have Yetzer Hara?
Because they have an inclination towards good and evil. I mean, it's not, we have a specific relationship with the Yetzer Hara. Because Hashem is bringing us closer to Kedusha. A goy is not really in that place. I know, it's hard to understand. Jews have a very difficult time with this kind of...
You were saying after that year, then you were feeling like, oh, what's this new struggle? Did you know before that this whole thing with Yetzer Hara that you get it after?
No one told me.
So how did you
No, this is why I always tell my people.
Right.
Yeah. It's important.
So now, but how did you
Well, I learned. I started learning. I started learning. And it's like Mitzrayim. It takes a while to get rid of all the tentacles. I still have tentacles from the Christian world, but you're always trying to get rid of different thoughts and things that come from a world that you were raised in. But I started learning. I went, okay, so all right. And I also taught people in the conversion process and learned from my rabbis this concept, because it's so subtle that you don't realize it, and yet when it happens to you, it can be very devastating, very traumatic. Yeah.
I didn't understand. Why is it that they're making it harder for people to convert now?
Well,
on purpose or that?
Okay, so first of all, you need to ask the Rabbanut of Eretz Yisrael why they're doing it.
It's only in Eretz Yisrael that it's getting harder?
It's harder here. In England, it's always been known to take many years to convert, so it's been the most strict based in. Rabbi Eisenstein from Malo Daphna is also a Rav that I work with, and he has specific Batei Din throughout the world that he works with. Why? Because it's a bit complicated, but the biggest part of the issue is there are a lot of charlatans out there charging people a lot of money to convert, and they're not even real conversions.
Wait, why?
Yeah, because they want money. They're fake.
Why would they charge? Wait, I don't.
Because they're not real. They just
They
want
want
money.
money.
Do they say that $1,000 or do they say they're
So also there are situations where people will be Orthodox rabbis that really don't have the understanding of how to explain to somebody and be sure that they know that they will have a halachic conversion when they are finished. What does that mean? That they understand that they will be keeping the mitzvot. So that is really the plumb line that shows you the difference between one and the other. And so what has happened is the Orthodox Jewish world, mostly the Haredi world, have gotten together and they have designated certain batei that are qualified to be able to convert. You know, not every rabbi knows everything about kashrut. You go to a rabbi who really knows a lot about kashrut if you want the answer. Not everyone knows about conversions and what needs to happen and what needs to be done. So it's becoming, it's such a balagan, it's such a mess. And we are constantly trying to keep up with what is the newest situation happening. People are wanting to come to Israel to convert. We keep saying, no, 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 don't come here to convert. Do it in America. This is the base din you can do it in America at. And there's places like Lakewood, LA, Chicago, Miami. There's different places that are, you know, within good locations for people to go to. And it's just, they're wanting to be in Israel. Yeah.
Just because you're such a big person in your community, did anyone else question Christianity when they saw what you were doing?
No. Last time I was home, my nephew was very, very upset. He said, you were such a zealot for the Christian world. How did you, my sister's a Christian, my family's a Christians, and so how could you have turned your back? How did you go the other way? And I said, look, for me, you have to be very, very careful because these people need this. I'm not trying to convert anybody to Judaism. You have to be very, very careful. Even in the days when we have, like the tzoros that we have right now, it's permissible on a certain leniency to go a little bit further, but I had to be very, very careful. And I just said, look, for me, this is my path. Not for you, but for me, this is my path. But he never questioned himself. Yeah.
Isn't it? I'm from like Dallas, Texas, and
from where?
Dallas, Texas. And so we have a few I people or whatever that converted, and one of my really good friends is a convert.
Oh, very nice.
And isn't it super hard not having like your family or just being very alone?
There's all kinds of people. People that came from Russia that don't have their family. It's not easy. It's not easy. Hashem has brought us into a close community, close-knitted community. I have my husband's children. I've raised and been around the raising of his grandchildren, so I'm pretty close there. But when I go back to America, that's when it's difficult because I'm entering into a world I came out of, and not everybody's permitted to do that, and there's a reason why. Because there's a very strong pull back into where you fit in your comfort zone, which you were just taught about. Be careful you don't take light of your comfort zone. Because this last time when I was back, I had people solicit me again to get back involved in politics. And the Sarah Palin campaign, oh yes, very much so. And no, I'm going back to Israel, where I'm nobody again. Anyway, that's...
You're somebody.
Yeah, I know. It's okay. Okay, so I think
quite a somebody.
Yeah. Anyway,
maybe one more question.
Okay.
How did your children respond?
Baruch Hashem, fine.
Like, you
Mom.
raised them as Christian and then...
Well, it's really very interesting because my sons didn't follow in the Christian way. And so, Baruch Hashem, I thought I did a good job, but I guess I didn't.
The truth came out.
Yeah, the truth came out. I was a very zealot, and so, I have granddaughters. I mean, through my Rav and the way we've worked things out, I can go back there and visit. And no, my son just says, this is mom's thing. This is mom's thing. Whatever she's doing. No one's interested in coming to visit, though, so visit here. Okay? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.